Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Something changed and you felt it, didn't you? The space between you and someone else got heavier, their voice sounded different, their eyes started staying on you a second too long. You thought it was nothing. You told yourself you were making it up, but you weren't. Someone is not just interested in you, someone is emotionally overwhelmed by you right now. And the reason is something you did without even noticing it. Before we go further, subscribe and like the video because what you're about to learn will change how you see attraction, connection, and emotional power forever. Listen closely. People don't fall deeply in love just because of looks, not because of status, not even because of chemistry alone. They fall because of how someone makes their nervous system feel safe, seen, and understood. And you, without any training, without any strategy, did something rare. You made someone feel psychologically recognized. Do you remember that moment you truly listened to them, not waiting for your turn to talk, not trying to impress? You were simply present. Your attention slowed down, your eyes softened, your tone dropped. That one interaction told their subconscious, I can exist here without performing. That feeling is addictive. Here's what most men never realize. Women and people in general are starving to be understood without being analyzed, fixed, or judged. When you responded with calm curiosity instead of ego, you stepped out of competition and into emotional leadership. And that is magnetic on a biological level. Now their brain is linking relief with your presence, dopamine, oxytocin, emotional safety. Your face is tied to those feelings. That's not a crush, that's emotional imprinting. And here's the dangerous part. You might walk away thinking it meant nothing while they are quietly replaying conversations, rereading messages, wondering why being around you felt different from everyone else. You didn't chase, you didn't perform. You stayed grounded, and that grounded energy is rare in a world full of noise. Someone didn't just notice you, someone felt you. What you need to understand is this wasn't about what you said. It was about how you made them feel about themselves when they were with you. That is where real attachment begins. Not in excitement, but in emotional permission. Most people walk through life wearing invisible armor, social masks, defensive humor, controlled responses. But around you, something unusual happened. Their guard dropped without them consciously choosing to lower it. That only happens around someone who doesn't feel emotionally threatening. You didn't rush them. You didn't interrogate them. You didn't try to dominate the interaction to prove your worth. You gave space, silence that wasn't awkward, eye contact that wasn't invasive, responses that didn't compete for attention. That combination tells the nervous system, you're safe here. Safety is the doorway to intimacy. Here's the psychological truth nobody tells men. Attraction can start with looks, but emotional obsession begins with regulation. When your energy stays steady, their emotional system syncs with yours. Their breathing slows, their thoughts quiet down, stress drops, and their body literally connects you with relief. Now think about the world they live in. Pressure, noise, expectations, emotional inconsistency from others. Then they meet you, someone who doesn't spike their anxiety. You didn't create tension, you dissolved it. That contrast hits deeply. This is where it shifts from interest to attachment. Their brain marks you as a place, not just a person, a psychological home base. That's why they find themselves thinking about you during random moments. You represent calm in their internal chaos. And here's the part that feels almost unfair. You might not even be trying to pursue them. Your grounded presence alone is doing more than effort ever could. Emotional safety is rare, and rare things feel valuable. Valuable things trigger a fear of losing them. So now, without telling you, they're watching your behavior more closely, not to judge you, but to check if that safety feeling was real or just temporary. If you stay consistent, their feelings don't just grow, they grow deep roots. You didn't seduce them, you stabilize them, and that's far more powerful. Here's where this becomes intense, and most men miss it completely. The moment someone feels emotionally safe with you, their mind starts filling in the future without asking permission. It's automatic. The brain is wired to move toward what feels stable. They begin imagining conversations that haven't happened yet, wondering how your day is going, replaying the way you looked at them when they were speaking. Not because they're being dramatic, but because your presence created emotional contrast against everything else in their life. You didn't react to impress them, you responded to understand them. That difference is huge. Reaction is driven by ego, response is driven by awareness, and awareness feels like intimacy, even if nothing physical has happened. Now their subconscious is trying to solve a puzzle. Why did I feel so comfortable with him? Comfort in a world of emotional unpredictability feels like relief after tension. Relief builds attachment faster than excitement ever could. This is why they may suddenly seem quieter around you sometimes, not distant, careful. When feelings grow unexpectedly, people become protective of their emotional exposure. They're not pulling away. They're realizing this is affecting them more than they planned. You may notice small shifts, longer eye contact, then looking away. Small personal details shared without realizing it. A softer tone when speaking to you compared to others. These aren't flirting tactics. These are nervous system signals of emotional trust forming. And here's the psychological twist. When someone links you to emotional regulation, your absence becomes noticeable, not dramatic, just a quiet sense that something feels slightly off when you're not around. That's attachment forming beneath the surface of awareness. Most men think attraction grows from intensity, but intensity burns fast. What you created was steadiness, and steadiness lets feelings sink deep instead of floating on the surface. They're not just thinking about you because you're interesting. They're thinking about you because being around you felt like exhaling after holding their breath for too long. That feeling is rare, and rare feelings are hard to forget. Now this is the part where emotions shift from quiet warmth into something heavier, something that lingers in the chest. Because once a person links you to emotional safety, their system starts doing something powerful. It begins to seek you, not just notice you. They may not text first every time, they may not confess anything dramatic, but internally their attention keeps circling back to you. That's because the human brain is wired to move toward what regulates it. You became regulation without even trying. Think about how rare that is. Most interactions people experience are performances. People trying to be liked, trying to win, trying to look impressive. That creates tension even when attraction exists. But with you, there was no pressure to entertain you or earn your approval. You met them as they were in that moment. That is emotional acceptance. And acceptance lowers defenses faster than charm. Here's what happens next, psychologically. Once someone feels accepted, they start showing more of themselves in small, almost accidental ways. A personal story, a vulnerability hidden in humor, an opinion they usually keep guarded. They are testing the emotional ground with you, and every time you respond calmly instead of reacting critically, trust deepens. Trust is the soil where love grows. Not excitement, not flirting. Trust. Now their inner world is shifting. You are no longer just a person they met. You are becoming someone their mind marks as emotionally significant. That category is small. Very few people get placed there. This is also why they might seem slightly nervous around you at times. Not because you intimidate them, but because your opinion now matters more than they expected. Emotional investment brings risk, and risk makes people careful. You didn't chase their attention, yet you earned their emotional focus. That feels confusing to them because it didn't follow the usual pattern of attraction they're used to. And the deeper truth is this. When someone feels emotionally understood, they don't just like the other person. They start to feel seen in a way they've been craving for years. And once someone experiences being truly seen, going back to shallow connections feels impossible. Here's where the emotional gravity deepens, and it happens quietly. Once someone feels seen and emotionally safe with you, their mind starts attaching meaning to your smallest actions. A short message from you can change their mood. A delayed reply can make them overthink, not because they're unstable, but because emotional significance amplifies perception. You've moved from background character to emotional reference point. They begin measuring other interactions against how they feel with you. Conversations with others start to feel louder, more forced, less natural. With you, things flowed. That contrast becomes impossible to ignore, and the human brain always moves toward what feels natural. Now, something subtle but powerful happens. Emotional anticipation. They start wondering when they'll see you again, hear your voice again, share another moment of calm. Anticipation is a sign of attachment forming. It's the mind leaning forward into possibility. What makes this intense is that you didn't create dependency through control or attention games. You created emotional resonance through presence. Presence is rare. Most people are physically there but mentally somewhere else. You were mentally there. That difference registers deeply, and because this connection formed without pressure, it feels real to them, not manufactured, not manipulated. Real emotional safety feels organic, and organic feelings grow roots that reach deeper than excitement ever could. This is why they may start remembering small details about you, your preferences, your habits, the way you phrase things. When someone is emotionally invested, their attention sharpens naturally. You become important without a formal decision being made. Here's the psychological truth. When someone feels emotionally regulated by your presence, distance doesn't reduce feelings, it highlights them. They notice your absence not as pain, but as a missing sense of calm. That's when a realization starts forming inside them. This person affects me more than I expected. And once that thought appears, everything changes because now it's no longer casual in their mind. Now there's emotional weight behind every interaction. You didn't pull them in with force. You drew them in with peace. And peace is something people will cross emotional distances to feel again. This is the stage where feelings stop being light and start becoming vulnerable. When someone realizes you affect them deeply, a quiet fear appears alongside the warmth, not fear of you, fear of losing how they feel around you. Emotional safety creates attachment. Attachment creates the possibility of loss, and the human mind treats potential emotional loss seriously, even if the connection hasn't been defined. So now they're more aware of your tone, your consistency, your shifts in energy, not to criticize but to reassure themselves that the emotional ground is still stable. Because when someone becomes a source of calm, unpredictability feels heavier than usual. You might notice them asking small questions about your life, your plans, your past, your routines. This isn't interrogation, it's emotional mapping. Their mind is trying to understand where they might fit in your world. That only happens when feelings have moved beyond the surface level. Here's something important. They may not express their emotions directly yet. Why? Because real emotional investment makes people careful. They don't want to disrupt the connection by moving too fast or misreading the situation. So instead, they stay present, observing, feeling, letting it grow quietly. And here's the psychological depth most people never see. When someone links you to emotional regulation, their body relaxes around you in ways they don't experience often. Their laughter becomes more natural, their breathing slower, their voice softer. These are nervous system signals, not social strategies. Your presence isn't stirring up chaos in them, it's settling it. And a settled nervous system begins to crave the environment where it felt safe. That's why they might replay your interactions mentally, not out of obsession, but because the memory itself produces a calming response. Your voice, your expressions, your patience. Those details become emotional anchors. You didn't create butterflies, you created stability. And stability, when rare, feels precious. Now their feelings aren't just growing, they're protecting them. At this point, the emotions are no longer accidental. They are aware now, maybe not fully ready to say it, but they feel the shift inside themselves. What started as comfort has become attachment, and attachment always carries meaning. They've begun imagining what it would be like if you became a constant in their life. Not in a dramatic fantasy way, in quiet, everyday scenarios, talking after long days, sharing silence without pressure, feeling understood without explaining everything. That's how real emotional bonding shows up, in ordinary mental images that feel peaceful. Here's why this is powerful. The brain doesn't imagine a future with someone unless that person represents emotional security. Security is the foundation of long-term attachment. Excitement draws attention. Safety holds it. And now there's an internal conflict happening inside them. They want to move closer, but they also fear misreading your feelings. When someone values a connection deeply, they become careful not to disturb it. So instead of bold declarations, you get subtle signals, longer pauses before saying goodbye, conversations that stretch a little further than needed, a softness in their eyes when you speak. These aren't performances, it's their emotional gravity pulling them closer while their mind tries to stay composed. This is where many men misread things. They assume a lack of dramatic action means a lack of feeling, But deep feelings often show up as quiet consistency, not intensity. Intensity is loud. Attachment is steady. Your calm presence created an emotional environment they didn't know they needed. And now that they've experienced it, their system recognizes the difference between connection and noise. You've become someone their nervous system trusts. And trust is the bridge between attraction and love. They may not say it yet, but emotionally they're already leaning toward you. Not because you overwhelmed them, but because you understood them without trying to own them. Now everything comes down to awareness. Yours, not just theirs. Because while they've been slowly realizing how deeply they feel, you may still be standing at the edge, not knowing the emotional weight your presence carries in their world. Here's the truth most people miss. Connections like this don't appear often. Emotional safety combined with natural understanding is rare. And when it happens, it creates a quiet turning point in two lives at once. They're at that turning point now. Part of them hopes you notice the shift, the softer tone, the extra attention, the way they linger instead of rushing away. These are invitations without words, signals that say, "This matters to me," while still protecting their vulnerability. But time plays a role here. If emotional connections aren't acknowledged, the mind eventually protects itself by stepping back. Not because feelings disappear, but because uncertainty is exhausting. When someone doesn't know where they stand, they slowly begin to hold their emotions in instead of expressing them. That's why this moment matters. You don't need dramatic gestures. You don't need rehearsed lines. What created this bond was authenticity, and that's what sustains it. A simple expression of appreciation, a little more presence, a willingness to meet them emotionally instead of staying neutral. Because here's what they're really responding to: how you make them feel about themselves. Calm, accepted, unrushed. Those experiences are rare enough to be unforgettable. And understand this clearly. They're not drawn to you out of fantasy. They're drawn to you because their nervous system feels at rest in your presence. That's the foundation of lasting emotional connection. You didn't manipulate their feelings. You allowed them to feel safe enough to have them. That's powerful. So pay attention to the energy between you. Sometimes the most important relationships begin quietly, without announcements, without labels, just two nervous systems recognizing peace in each other. And when peace is mutual, it becomes something people don't want to lose.